Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. This is the weekend edition of The Bullet for April the 15th, 2023. I'm Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, we got quite the lineup. To my right, we've got Mike Piwowarski. Mike just off of Arms Room Radio, and Rob, how did you put it earlier? He's the
Excellent in Bourbon Broadcasting
excellence.
Network.
There we go. Excellence in Bourbon Broadcasting Network.
Oh,
And then down below Mike, we have Tom Walls. Tom, of course, is whoops. That's not Tom. That's Tom.
I have hair. Somewhere.
Mike, I think, is the only one of us that has hair. But anyway, Tom is, I'm going to say, the senior trainer, although
There's one person more senior than I, time-wise.
okay. But Tom is Firearms Academy of Seattle. And then beside him, below me, we have the intimidable Rob Morse, who is, for I think 5 or 6 days in a row, above water, and joining us today from Louisiana home base. And he's also the guy behind the Slow Facts blog and Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Want to mention as we get going, everybody, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube on the Polite Society podcast page, you can comment directly on those videos. We'll get those comments, we'll get them up, get them put on the air, discuss them as we're live. If you're watching us anywhere else, well, you're going to have to go to those. We used to be able to connect to Twitter. Twitter is having a hissy fit and will not allow my broadcast software to connect. So, at any rate, let's go ahead and get going, guys. The first story I got up for today, I was maybe going to put this up with Mike on Thursday. We ran out of time, but this is a story that's getting some traction. There's a company that claims that they have a functional and ready for market smart gun. This came out on Bloomberg News this week, and I'm just going to read a little bit of the article here. As many as 5 people can be registered for a weapon and added or deleted as desired. Both the gun and computing device are charged via USB-C cable, with the gun being able to fire for months, according to Kepler on a full charge. Kepler is the owner of the company that makes this. There's no GPS location tracking chip in the gun, and it's up to the owner to decide whether to connect the computing device to the internet for updates. To prevent hacking or spying, the gun itself has no wireless or internet communication systems, and BioFire, the name of the gun, the name of the company, is taking pre-orders at smartgun.com. A $149 deposit puts you in line to pay $1,350 more when the weapon is ready to ship. The owner of the company fears the likeliest buyers of smart guns will be ill-equipped to use them. Quote, I worry that people will go out and buy this thing because they think it's safe without taking the time to go to the range and take classes and learn proper rules around safety. He says if you're not prepared to use a Glock, then you're not prepared to use a smart gun. You should stay away from guns. BioFire's only real hope for business success, he says, is having police and the military adopt the weapon first. My big concern, and there's a video on the website, and let me go ahead and and I'm going to put the link to this story in the comments for both Facebook and YouTube. My major
Paul,
issue
did you
with
use
this,
did you use the archive that gets you around the paywall?
I do not know.
Yeah,
Here we go.
it's in show notes. Do
Okay, I
that, because
got it.
otherwise people will.
My major issue with this and any other smart gun is, will it work in non-optimal conditions? If it's raining, if there's blood on the sensor, if a million other things go wrong, will this firearm still work? That's my major question. And is it worth 3 times a Glock? Because that's what it comes out to.
You notice they compare themselves to Glock and
Yes.
imply they're slightly better than. That was kind of deliberate and not a bad piece of marketing, but I think the three of us were talking about this pre-air and we're going, what should we not say?
Well, I'm going to say this. There is no holster in the universe that will fit this gun right now. It is huge. The grip seems to be full-size Glock-ish, maybe with a little bit of extra heft. But everything from the grip up is monstrous.
It's carrying some sophisticated electronics, Paul. It uses both fingerprints and facial image recognition. Really, and as they admit, if they're going to succeed, it will have to be the police and politically woke individuals who will care to use it. For example, will the governor of New Jersey require that his security detail carry the BioFire handgun? Lead by example, Governor Murphy. In fact, it may actually be required when I think about New Jersey law. What's fascinating about that, of course, is and this is where an ounce of hackery is worth a pound of theory. We had earlier so-called biometric handguns that were either enabled, for example, by a simple magnet. In some cases, I'm wondering, if I put a strobe near it, does it suddenly fail to read a face? So there are all kinds of hacks that you really have to go play with. Does it work at night? Does it work in the dirty, wet, real world? The other issue is, of course, if Mike and I are traveling and I say, Mike, we have a problem, I can't hand him my gun.
Yep.
Well, if you do it in Washington, it's also a felony, right? If you hand me your gun. So don't do that.
It's a misdemeanor and you hand it back, that's the felony.
That's right.
Because that's 2 transfers.
It's 2 transfers, and a misdemeanor has to be witnessed by law enforcement. But I'm reminded of Commander Montgomery Scott, who famously told us the more you tech up the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. And the 4 of us can think of hacks that would make this thing fail. I'm looking at the gun itself, and I was watching videos on their website of real Navy SEALs test firing it. And as an instructor, and by the way, as a Firearms Academy Seattle instructor, the opinions I'm giving are not necessarily those of the Academy, although I suspect they would be. However, mechanically, it looks like it's going to be a beast to control. It comes, according to the ad copy, in left and right-handed models, and that's a red flag right there. I suspect somebody that did not know a lot about firearms was visited by the Good Idea Fairy.
Yeah, right. Isn't that the way it always happens? I'll say the good thing I like about it, it's got a cool shape, right? I think it looks like some sort of battles, laser. It looks kind of cool. Other than that, get back to me in 50 years. I'm out passing. I don't have to worry about the reliability of a hammer, a spring, and a firing pin on a primer. That's all I need to worry about. Again, the more you put into this, the more electronics, the more opportunity for this to go bad. It's talking about fingerprint technology and facial recognition. Anybody out there with a smartphone, how many times a day do you yell at it to do the thing you want it to do? I don't need that doing this to me when my palms are sweaty, when you're under stress, when your heart rate's going, when it's, how about facial recognition when I grab it off my dresser at 2 a.m. and it's dark in there? How's it going to see me then? They might work around designs for it. Nothing's going to work better than a standard firearm when I pull the trigger and I put the sights on the bad guy after identifying. It's not for great. I mean, like you said, Tom, the Good Idea Fairies sound like they had a big part in this. Well, they could use it.
Well, we have to be honest. I'm sure they were given a lot of Bloomberg bucks and hope to get more. And Bloomberg will now pressure a lot of law enforcement agencies that you need to buy this. Okay, I've played with electronics. I've played with military electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Unless this gun is jam-proof, meaning can I, with a couple copies of this firearm, find a way to jam it, in which case no politician, they may say their security department has it, they won't let it in.
They may actually have the security department may actually have it. Are they using it?
Yeah, it's in a drawer somewhere. Robert says something interesting. I like my guns dumb, so they don't get any ideas implied of their own. Thank you, Robert. That is clever.
He also says my $1,200 cell phone doesn't unlock half the time. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And one more, George says, bet you California will try to outlaw everything except so-called smart guns. New Jersey tried that already, and they had to back their law off.
Well, but again, I hope that the answer will be lead by example, Governor. Here. And I suspect police unions will go, you want to experiment on our officers? Mm-hmm. Not only no, but blank no. And I can't, family show.
It reminds me of that meme.
Stats.
It reminds me of the meme.
Look at quick stats. 5 police officers last year killed with their own firearms. 5. So that's the argument for the police departments that this is going to keep their officers from becoming victims. That number's 5.
Gotcha.
Let it go out and let the market pay it.
Yeah.
What was that?
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I'm reminded of the meme that goes around on Facebook every now and again. 50% of the time it works. 100% of the time.
There you go.
All right. Let's the next one, and I got to say this is self-serving. This is just because I'm darn proud of my governor that this one made it up this high in the story list. This actually happened just yesterday. On Friday, Governor Kristi Noem signed an executive order to protect South Dakota's Second Amendment rights from being infringed on by financial institutions. This executive order, she says, will protect God-given right to keep and bear arms from being infringed on by financial institutions. South Dakota is setting the standard for the most Second Amendment-friendly state in the nation, but it's not just the media and big government that are attacking our rights. Now we've seen banking institutions go after law-abiding gun owners. Well, not on my watch. I won't stand for it. Not in South Dakota. Basically, what the executive order does is, if there are laws in Texas and Louisiana that say if you discriminate against firearms companies, we won't do business with you as a state. Well, Noem just did that in South Dakota through executive order. I'm just, as a South Dakotan, I am so pleased as punch that Noem is our governor. She spoke this week, and we will not have time, I'm sure, to get to it. There's one more story where she says her granddaughter, who's about to turn 2, has 2 firearms already. Very cool. I just hope her granddaughter has like lifetime memberships in the SAF, the NRA, GOA, and other organizations as well. But
Paul, let's give some context to Noem's statement, okay?
Yeah.
We have had very woke blue states say, you want to do business with in our state. Okay, bank, you can't do business with firearms companies. And now, then of course, in red states, when asked, do you discriminate, the bank will say no. Then citizens in the red states go, here, state banking examiner, this is what First First Lying Bank says about firearms owners. Like, we can't do business with them. They won't process our credit card transactions. And then they get sued by the state for falsifying state documents that said they didn't discriminate. Okay, so Nome lets the state punish liars. What it doesn't mention, and I don't think this happened yet, we have seen a push by woke banks to ask the International Standards Organization to mandate a credit card transaction code when you buy anything at a sporting goods store. By the way, does that include Walmart?
No, that's a general store. The merchant category code would allow them to give codes specifically to, for example, in Sioux Falls, Gary's Gun Shop.
So I can buy my ammunition at Walmart and
Yep.
it'll be a clear transaction, but if I buy it at Academy, whoops, then it shows up? Okay.
Yeah.
It is stranger than
Yes.
tax law.
It is. It absolutely is.
Well, if your governor has a sister, send her to Washington State, please. We have got some ugly stuff going on here right now. It makes me ashamed to say I'm from Washington.
Yeah, Inslee is not exactly freedom friendly.
Yeah.
Wholly owned subsidiary of George Soros.
You know, when this law came around in Texas, just to give you the depth of it, and I think it's the same in Louisiana, Rob, help me if I'm wrong, it's not just the credit card company doing business or the bank doing business with the Second Amendment friendly company, the vendor or the purchaser. It was written into the law that they can't even back bonds for companies that are doing contracting with the cities. For example, if somebody comes along and is doing a $10 million highway project and their bank is a bank that's anti-Second Amendment, well, they're not getting the contract. And that's how Governor Abbott, I know in Texas, got this to just be more than just a feel-good piece of legislation to actual teeth. And I know, Chase at a New York bank felt this hard when he came around with this. And it's nice to see that happening. And that's happened there's plenty of other states playing with this now as well. And I think they all realize that they're not going to be able to do business successfully in a pro-Constitution state.
Oklahoma, Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, to name a few. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, my big concern about Nome, she is getting up there in the polls for president. I hope she doesn't.
Oh, you
get
think you
any
might lose
ideas.
her, huh?
Yeah. She's in the first year of a 4-year term, and if she wants to run, she's got to declare real soon.
Gotcha.
So
That's cute. All you guys thinking your governor is going to be the next president. That's nice.
I hope not. I hope my
Mike
governor is
from
not. I hope
Florida.
my governor stays governor here for 4 years.
Not even going to talk about mine. Nope.
Hey, yeah, Tom, I'd like for your governor to get a 4-year term in the state house.
7 to 10 would be
Jail,
better.
right.
Next story comes out of Florida. This is WUSF News, which is a public news, public broadcasting news outlet.
Government media, you mean?
Yeah, there you go. Well, okay, yes. 2 years ago, a pregnant Florida woman armed with a semi-automatic rifle gunned down one of 2 home invaders who had broken into her Tampa home. The woman, who had a concealed carry weapons license, said the men were pistol whipping her husband when she grabbed her legally possessed firearm and fired 1 round. The woman who requested her identity be withheld is one of 2.5 million people who have had a concealed weapons license in Florida, according to the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services as of February 28th. 1/3 of those license holders were women. Gun safety experts in Gainesville and neighboring communities say they've noticed a significant increase in the last 4 months in the number of women who wish to obtain a concealed weapons license. Tom, I'm going to go directly to you because you and I have talked about this on Fridays. Out of the Firearms Academy of Seattle, you've seen, and I'm going to say, if I may be wrong here, but I'm going to say almost exponential increase in the amount of ladies coming to get real firearms training.
Now, you just posed a math problem. You know I don't do math. But I'll tell you this. When I started teaching at FAS in '05, I did a lot of the introductory classes. The introductory classes are 6 hours, half law, but there's a 50-round component on the range. So we're getting the whole thing. There's no requirement to, unless the government has, or the governor has his way, there's no requirement to have any formal training for a CCW. But in our state, when I started back in '05, we were seeing roughly 10 to 15% women in those introductory classes. And I actually tracked it because my wife and I are both instructors, and we help with those classes a lot because we present well to new students. 10 to 15%. The reasons that people would give in our confidential questionnaire, like, what brought you here? What do you want to get out of the class? And the most common theme at that time was because I'm here with my husband or my boyfriend or my dad wanted me to come. It was for reasons other than their own initiative. Fast forward to roughly 3-4 years ago, we started to see that ramp up. It had been going up slowly, and now it's, I guess you could say it's exponential. We are consistently, the last 2 years, seeing 50% or more female. I have had classes that I've taught where they have been 75-80% female. There was one yesterday I wasn't teaching, but one of my co-instructors knows I like that. They said out of 11 shooters, 8 were female. And the reasons are changing. I'll take pictures, remove all the identifiers, and just show those on Facebook. Because I'm a teacher. Because I live in a rural area and I know the sheriff can't get there in time. Because of the way the world is, or my favorite, have you watched the news lately? Our country are becoming more interested in firearms training. They're buying more firearms. We're seeing more and more of them percentage-wise, as you mentioned, with concealed handgun licenses, and more of them are training. And it's an awesome thing to see.
But all of us are shaking our heads at the government-run media here. Last 4 months, you noticed the response. You and I have seen articles like this, and as you've cited through your own evidence, Tom, how about last several years? I'm thinking at least 3 when this trend was noticed. And it was first described as the transition from, what was it, Redneck 1.0 to 2.0? What was...
I hadn't heard that, but I like the term.
Well, Gun Culture 1.0 to 2.0, David Yamani.
Yeah.
And again, a hat tip there to Michael Bain.
I want to get a couple comments in here real quick. Tony Simon checking in. Simon says, train, gun rights or women's rights? Firearms are the great equalizer. And let me get Carrie Ann, who's catching us on Facebook. Let me get her comment.
Hey, Carrie Ann.
Good for them. Yep, Armed Women of America in Massachusetts has almost 80 members.
Outstanding.
Good.
So yeah, I found it interesting that this public how do I put this? A public broadcasting news outlet had a fairly pro-gun article out there, and it just wow.
You know, we're starting to see, and I know we've all seen it, and even some of the major media sources, which we know are all, all to the left. You'll see these come in halfway through or towards the back page. You're seeing more of these, conservative articles pop through. You could see, when you watch a press conference where you see how the media is dealing with the president. It's not 100% bow down to everything that's coming out of this administration. There's questioning of things that are going on, and I like to see it. It's a little crack in the liberal shield there. We're starting to see some of the opposite side opinions start to come back through, and it just kind of, I think, adds to the fact that of the failures of this administration even his own lap dogs can't lap him 100% of the time.
And this is where I
Go ahead, Rob.
go ahead, Tom, please.
Here, I'll choose. Here you go, Rob. You got
There
it.
you go.
There we go. What I was, Carrie Ann, please answer this too, if you can, or any of our other listeners. The news is out to sell anxiety until the next commercial, where they might be selling you medicine for anxiety, come to think of it. What I worry about is, okay, if the world becomes sane, will gun culture 2.0 fade? I don't want to frighten women into feeling the need to defend themselves. I want them to realize it's their right. They never should feel afraid. Maybe I'm splitting hairs there.
Tom, did you have something you wanted to go with?
It goes along with what Carrie was mentioning, what you and I talked about yesterday on Training Friday. In addition to just women, comprising a large group at FAS, understand that we're not in Seattle. We're outside of that blue enclave. We're in deep red Lewis County, about halfway between Seattle and Portland. So a lot of those folks that are non-traditional students, women, people from the other side of the political fence, people of different gender identities, are coming to training. And I know it's not just us that are seeing them. I think it's all over the country. They're realizing that they need to be their own first responders, that defunding the police doesn't work, that gays get bashed, that women get assaulted. They're understanding that the only person to protect them is them, and if they're lucky, they'll get some backup, because we can't have a cop on every corner. And it takes a lot of courage for them because of, like Rob was saying, and Mike was saying, the liberal media controls the message. What they think of us as a culture. You know, plaid shirt, bald, old white guy. You know, 3 of the 4 of us. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
It is amazing, Mike. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
I can bring
could.
some clippers to the Gun Rights Policy Conference when we get together. Just saying.
But anyway, they're looking at us and how we're presented. We're in the white beaters and the chewing tobacco, and they're realizing maybe we're not that way. But to come down and take the initiative, that fear of that loud noise, of that bad gun that only bad guys have, of the people that are going to be teaching them like us, if we welcome them, we are in a position to do a huge change in the American zeitgeist about guns.
Tom, go ahead, Paul. Put them up. But then I got a question for Tom.
Yeah, I got 2 comments. Carrie Ann commented again. Let me get.
Yes.
COVID/lockdown has increased domestic violence. More women refuse to be a victim. They want training from women. And she also says, we train women to become first responders, not to be a victim, and not to be afraid of firearms.
Yep. Well
So
put,
Carrie Ann's training organization focused on women. Tom, do you tell your classes, hey, about half of you are women, that makes you ordinary? It might not have been. I mean, is that something they want to know?
I don't know. What we try to do is to encourage them to feel comfortable. That's one of the reasons that my wife Diane and I are instructors in that class, because frankly we present as non-threatening. I will play a grandfather role, she'll play a grandmother role. If it's another old person, we'll play old guy to old guy or old guy to old gal. But we want them to be comfortable and understand that they're welcome regardless of how they live, who they worship, whatever that might be. And we're there to teach them basically gun law and gun safety in that initial class. And more of them now are starting to come to the secondary classes. Not as much as we'd like to see. But we just let them know that, yeah, you can do this. It's not a difficult thing to learn if you apply themselves. You are welcome. I really can't say it better than that. It's that simple, but it's a powerful message. We don't have women's classes at FAS. That's not part of our business plan or our philosophy. Although some women learn best in that environment because they've been attacked or raped, or they have trust issues, or It just fits them better. And there are those organizations in our culture that fill that niche very nicely. We've got Pink Pistols for gays. We've got the whole bunch of rainbow kind of stuff, and those folks are well known within our business. We have women's only classes that get women involved. And once they get involved, then they have less trouble stepping into a competition or a match or a tactical class. Once they know they can do that, and they won't be turned away for being, oh, little girl, that's nice.
I'm about to reveal a not so open secret in the firearms training world. I know I've never mentioned this on the air before. However, since Alexa, stop. Since the person who taught me this is now retired, but may actually even be watching, I'm still going to go ahead and I've been involved in open classes where men or women. I've actually even been involved in women's only classes. Guess what? The classes are exactly the same. You're not missing out on anything if a lady goes to a women's only class. It's exactly the same instruction as you get in a men's or in a open class, in anybody can come class.
If you can say that, I will bare my soul and will probably lose my union card as a firearms instructor, and I'll tell you all a secret. Besides the fact that the classes are the same, a good instructor doesn't teach a class, we teach an individual. There just happen to be a bunch of them on the same range at the same time. I will approach one student differently than I will approach another. So if you say men and women learn differently, they have to have different classes, I will disagree with that based on experience. You look at the individual, you read the individual, you determine their abilities and needs, and an instructor can adapt for each person in class.
So yeah, let me get we got Carrie Ann's. She's on it today. Let me get a couple more comments in. This is a good point, and I want to bring this in. Men can trigger a woman learning to train with firearms. I get it that ladies can be uncomfortable around guys, and are more comfortable with a female teaching them, and that is a real issue. And if that's an issue with a woman and she wants to get a female training, I'm glad there are more female trainers. My only point is a ladies only class and a general class is the exact same instruction. That's what I was saying.
The same can be said for the opposite of Carrie's argument also, though. There's plenty of men out there that don't like to take from women. You know, the guys that don't like women bosses or whatever, same as much. Again, that's about identifying the individual need and taking care of that. But the class should be the same.
Yeah, and she actually, with her next comment, she's right there. We train the person based on the needs.
Exactly.
I think that's universal.
And that's what a good trainer, a good instructor has to do. You know, I have a goal. I need these skill sets. Here's how I'm going to approach you with this person who may take it differently than this person. If I get a young man, hey, stop yanking the trigger. He wants an authority figure because that's his mindset. I'll do that. If I need somebody, look, this is what you're doing. Let's try this. Let's see how this works. I'm getting him to do the same thing, but I'm approaching it differently.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and, because we're burning up the time here, let's get to our next story. This off the telegraph.com. This is an Illinois-based website. Illinois federal judge now has the case against the new assault weapons ban. After hours of oral arguments Wednesday, a federal judge now has a case challenging Illinois gun ban with a ruling on a preliminary injunction expected within the weeks ahead. Plaintiffs say they are confident they'll get the new law overturned. Enacted on January 10th, it bans more than 170 semi-automatic firearms in certain magazine capacities. 4 plaintiffs' groups, including one suit filed by Thomas Mag of Wood River, sued in federal court alleging the law violates the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Joseph McGlynn is the judge for the Southern District of Illinois, consolidated the cases and heard hours of arguments on Wednesday at East St. Louis. He started the proceedings by showing several images that people could say was a duck or a rabbit or a young woman or an old woman. Quote, in my experience, these firearms cases have a lot of the same things. People look at mass shootings and they look at gun regulations. Some people zero in, just focus on the guns. Others look at the victims. McGlynn says he has an open mind. I have not made up my mind, he said before arguments were made. It's not my job to make policy decisions. My job is to make sure the policy decisions of the legislative or executive branch are consistent with the Constitution. With that last sentence, I can very reliably predict how this is going to come down. What do you guys think?
Paul, it's been fascinating to watch these different cases and how they're argued. We have to educate judges, meaning the lawyers in these cases, on how they have to be tried. What is the procedure? It's not like a standard criminal case that's been pounded out for 100 years. In many cases, the judges have never seen a case like this before. And the anti-gun lawyers are inventing new judicial procedures that sound like what the Supreme Court said, but is in fact nothing like it. If the case touches on the Second Amendment, then the government is burdened. And the argument that the anti-gun lawyers are making is to show how, no, this isn't really a Second Amendment case at all. Nice try with that. We're going to see which judges swallow that. What do you guys think?
We've got something very much like that pending in Washington. Go ahead, Mike. I'm just sitting here bitching.
I think no, that's right, Rob. I think you're right. In fact, what I think we need to see with every one of these Second Amendment cases now is the courts need to put in a Bruin express lane. So it's Second Amendment related. Why are we going to wait over here for 60 days for this to go through the normal course? Let's go in the Bruin express lane so we can watch this new law be put down right away and stop wasting all our time.
Right. Does it strike everyone else as odd that the U.S. Supreme Court said there was a right to bear arms, and then all these red states went nuts and said, yeah, let us put in a whole raft of infringements, as if we didn't hear what you said?
Blue
Wow.
states.
Blue states, my bad. Sorry. Yeah. Absolutely right.
Yeah, we've talked about this several times, all of us here, I'm sure. We continue to see these politicians, they're told this is unconstitutional, yet they still do it. They still say, well, I have to do it. It's for the children or for the animals or for whatever reason they're using this week that they have to violate the Constitution by writing more unconstitutional laws. We see the trend to want to take away qualified immunity from law enforcement, which means they can do their job and not be held civilly liable as long as they don't break the law or violate your civil rights. The same should be applied to these politicians as well. Thereby, if they decide, I'm going to write an unconstitutional law, they're held individually liable, not the county, not the court, not the state. We have in Florida a very strong preemption law for firearms, and it says if you, in a lower municipality, attempt to write a law against our Constitution, Florida is the only one that can write those laws. And if you try and write one and it's deemed unconstitutional, you lose your office. You have to pay all your legal fees by yourself, and you don't get to hold office again.
I like it. I'll put forth just a hypothesis here, and I think I can argue pretty strongly for it, that if a politician puts forth in some way, governor signs or it's introduced in legislation, an anti-gun and very non-Bruin compliant law, I like that Bruin express lane, as we have in my state right now, they're not stupid people. They may be bad people, but they're not stupid people. And I suspect many of them understand that it is in violation of the Bruin decision and other decisions and principles and laws. But even though they know it will eventually be overturned or suspect that it will, they can turn around at re-election time and say, folks, I worked to save you. I wanted to save the children, even if it saves one life. But my opponent's party, the NRA, whomever, they blocked it. Let's join together. I think they're doing it for points. And the problem is, for instance, a magazine capacity limit that we're laboring under right now, Second Amendment Foundation filed suit, I think, before the ink was dry on that legislation. year and a half ago. We're looking at next December before this hits the Ninth Circuit. So even though that they're doing this delaying tactic they know is not going to go through, they're making political hay from it, and we are burdened by that law. We may lose, with the current law we have coming up here in Washington, we may lose a bunch of gun stores that can't stay in business.
Yeah. And every citizen in your states is losing from it because they're not defending that against that lawsuit with their own money. That's coming from state funds. So everybody in that state gets to pay a little bit more.
Exactly. You know, they have unlimited funds to do what they want to do.
And this is why I'm glad all of you are on the show, and this is why I think what Paul and Mike do is so critical. You guys are the voice that says, no. It's not the lives that gun control saved. Criminals violate gun control laws millions of times a year as they commit crimes. If you care about the children, look at how many families were disarmed so they could not defend themselves, because we have armed defense millions of times a year where we stop crime. So thank you for that voice, guys. We need more of it. Paul, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. Let me get a couple of comments in here real quick. I want to go to first one. God bless Pete over at Gun Websites. He just started a bar fight. I have standards, so I don't like taking classes from people who settle for 9mm.
There you go.
You know what? I am ammo neutral. I have 9mm handguns. I have 40 caliber handguns, and I have one 45 caliber handgun. I've got a 30-30 rifle. I've got a 223. I've got multiple 223 rifles, and I have a 20 gauge shotgun. I have a 12 gauge shotgun. All of them are good for me. So
listen, the 9mm a good round. I say this to you all the time. It gets the job done. It's not the Lord's caliber though. It's not what Jesus carried when Jesus came to this country on the Mayflower. He had on a 1911 with a 45. All right. That's when he came to free this country.
I want to. Okay. You read that on the internet, so you know it's got to be true, right?
I saw it on the internet.
I got to get Robert's comment in here because Mike, I think you said this before. We need to put in a tar and feather provision.
Yeah, that's it.
I would consider voting for that.
And then one more, going back to Carrie Ann, Carrie Ann's on fire tonight. I hear and hold the Constitution. They do not. Sad. You know, with the way, was it just me or did I hear that in Trump's voice when that came through? Anyway, let's. I want to I'm going to skip down a little bit in show notes here. I found this today, and I was absolutely, again, this is off bakersfieldnow.com, a not only balanced and accurate article. I'm going to read just the beginning of it. A man was attacked with a hatchet, then defended himself, killing an intruder in Northeast Bakersfield Wednesday, confirmed Bakersfield Police Department Sergeant Robert Pear. Pear said the intruder was living in the area at a sober house and trespassed into the man's home through an open garage door. Shortly after, the intruder attacked the homeowner with a hatchet, and the homeowner retaliated with a knife, killing the intruder. The homeowner suffered moderate injuries, and he was not arrested. He then goes on to explain what you can do in a home invasion. I read through this entire article, and believe it or not, they were pretty factually accurate, stating, you know, it's not a great idea if the bad guy is retreating, you don't want to open fire then. Stating that if somebody's coming into your home, that California has a castle doctrine, and that it is assumed somebody breaking into your home is there to do you harm. Just shocking to me that a California article, a California news organization, gave good and correct information about the right to self-defense. Rob, were you able to read that article?
I'm reading it now, and they do bring up the issue of someone who's trying to light your house on fire, that's considered a threat not only to you but to everyone in the home. Here's what people forget about California. You can carry a firearm in your home. You cannot step out your own front door unless you have a locked gate that would secure that property from someone trespassing onto it. For example, can your neighbor walk up to your front door? Then you can't carry there. So, yeah, it's still pretty strange. It is good that now here's what they didn't say. Why did a guy use a knife in a hatchet fight?
Yeah.
Let's win that game with a distance tool, so we don't have to engage a guy. Let's turn it around. If it had been his wife who had been attacked with a man with a hatchet, do you want her to use a knife? Let's not.
Do you want to have to get in and attack with a knife if your wife is being attacked with a hatchet, or do you want to be able to step back a step or two, be able to, with practice, accurately put rounds on target and stop the threat without having to engage at bad breath distance? Let's see here, and anybody else want to comment on this? Tom, you're a firearms trainer.
Who lives in a place where sheriff response is at best 25 minutes, come and go 3 down the highway. So most interestingly, many of my neighbors shoot on the weekends on our own property. We're not the only source of gunfire during the weekends. We're armed all the time. We keep our doors locked, even though what we see outside is mostly cute and furry. We had like a half dozen deer in the yard this morning at breakfast. If someone's going to break into my house, I don't want to have to go hands-on. You know my background with hands-on training, so you can maybe appreciate that when I don't want to go hands-on with somebody, maybe none of us should. I'm armed all the time. Somebody breaks into my door, they have to break through a locked door, make a lot of noise, and hopefully that'll give me or the missus enough warning to do that from a standoff position. Yeah.
I'm a knife guy by virtue of training. When the military started offering it, I took every bit of it I could get and got pretty good at it. And I'll tell you right now, and Tom's a trainer, and I know everybody else in here, we all shoot. The way to defeat a knife attack is run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. The only way you win a bladed attack. There is no other way to win a bladed attack without getting cut unless you run as fast as you can in the opposite direction.
I concur. The best advice I had ancillary to that was from Mark McYoung is if it's knife to knife, cut your way out of that fight. Nice. leave a mark as you beat feet.
Yep.
All right. Next story I've got here, this is off AOL.com, which is still a thing.
You got to look at it in the past there? What are you doing?
Telling you.
It's a time machine. Wow.
Just this side of MySpace, man. Missouri House advances bill allowing guns on buses, inside churches, and synagogues. Missouri, I thought you were a pro-gun state, a pro-freedom state. What's the holdup? Look, all gun-free zones get people killed, but if I'm going to go to worship someplace, that is the place where I most want to be able to be armed, because there's a whole lot of people there who are not necessarily of my mindset that I want to be able to help protect.
Oh, me. I have a story.
Go.
Wife and I went to Baltimore, traveled cross country for one of our son's childhood buddies that got married. So we flew across country, and we were legal to carry in that place, and we did. We go into the church, and there's a whole bunch of people in a group with very few entrances and exits, and the main entrance is behind everybody with your back to the door, dressed in their finery with money for things afterwards and wearing their best jewelry. I mean, this is like a victim pool. And we chose the appropriate size of the sanctuary, the side of the sanctuary to sit in. And she and I went directly for the same part of the same pew because it was by the biggest piece of hardcover in the room.
Yep.
Yeah, and even here in Pro Freedom, South Dakota, and I've interacted with a lot of people that participate. There are churches that have security teams. There are people that are part of the congregation there every week that provide security for the services, and they're dressed just like everybody else. Concealed means concealed, but yet they train together. They've got a plan in case something goes wrong, and I wish all churches would. This dovetails into one. This I think I'm going to go one more story, and I think this will take up the rest of our time.
Mike, did you want to say something?
Oh, that's all right. I'm good. It's nice to see Missouri bringing it back. You think of Missouri as a pro-gun state anyway, but you got to remember over the past 11 years now, there's been so many knee-jerk reactions to created these little gun laws. Starting back at Sandy Hook all the way through Parkland, and we see what's going on with Nashville. These little ones, these little laws pop up, and a lot of them being shot down with Bruin, but a lot of them take another legislative cycle or two to go through before you get that Republican-held or that conservative-held pro-Second Amendment legislation back in place to get rid of them. Paul, we talked about it the other day with Iowa.
Yep.
With some of the things there, it's just one of those little things where we're slowly taking the bites back to get the rights that were taken away from us with knee-jerk legislation.
Well, in their knee-jerk legislation, because they think that, I don't know about guns, but I've been told that what we need to do is make more gun-free zones. We need to ban this. We need to restrict that. And none of these things work, but they don't know that because they don't keep up with the history of it. So they're doing things with good intention, but they're not thinking it through.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to get one more story, and this ties in. Vermont House gives preliminary approval for a bill to ban paramilitary training camps. From the story, the legislation comes in response to increasing concerns about extremist paramilitary organizations across the country and in our own backyards. There are some exceptions to the ban, like target shooting and hunter safety, as well as self-defense facilities. Governor Phil Scott told NBC5 one of the reasons he supports the bill is because it doesn't impact local shooting ranges. I'm going to say yet. Recently, a Vermont judge ordered somebody, the owner of State Ridge, a weapons training facility and school, to remove all unpermitted buildings or risk facing hefty fines and a prison sentence. And I'm going to stop there. By the way, that I've been following. I haven't mentioned it on the air yet. I've been following that particular case, and that's a zoning thing. That slate range that they brought up. That's not a shooting. That's not a paramilitary thing. But where my concern is this: how much more do they need to go from you can't have a paramilitary training facility to you can't have a range? Because anybody that is going to be part of a paramilitary organization has to be able to shoot accurately. So this didn't work. Now we need to go after the ranges. 50 cal bans didn't take away gun violence. Now we got to go after 223. The taking all rifles away didn't take care of gun violence. Now we got to go after the handguns.
Somebody asked the obvious question. Come on. Define paramilitary.
Yes.
Define
right. That's it.
And they
this
will.
Sounds like, yeah. This sounds like the ruse to get rid of the gun training. You've got a class being taught by an instructor. That's teaching firearm safety. But what if that instructor is sponsored by we're doing a safety event sponsored by the Second Amendment Foundation? Well, now it's a political ideology, right? Is this a paramilitary organization now because we're teaching political ideology? Where do they draw that line? This is going to give them ability to grab that teeth and say, that's paramilitary. You're teaching anti-government sentiment here.
One thing I notice, and I see these articles every week, are articles where a guy goes, hi, before I apply to the city to build a building to have my gun store, are you going to let me have that zoning? And the city will often go, oh, we don't have a law against that yet. We'll fix that. But the answer is no, but we'll pass the law next week, which infuriates me. But yeah, and here we're seeing a similar story.
Yeah. You get Carrie Ann says, how are they supposed to train? Well,
we're up against people that ask questions like, why would you need to buy more bullets than your gun can hold?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's
as Amanda Suffolk, as our friend Amanda says, she has students that their pistol holds 5. They wonder why the box sells 50. I mean, why do I need so many? But Carrie Ann just pointed out something interesting, and it's inadvertent. Aren't the militia actually one of the few constitutionally recognized organizations that should be armed and regularly exercised?
Yes, a well-regulated. And let Robert actually makes that point. Get this one up.
Sorry, Robert. Let's hear how you said it.
Well-regulated and freedom of association, clearly unconstitutional.
There you go. Thank you, Robert.
Why does anybody need?
Yeah, I keep threatening to, but I swear one of these days I'm gonna take down the green screen and I'm gonna put up the ammo behind me, and it would nearly fill the area behind me.
But then
no,
you might get pitched off Facebook. So not.
Yeah, well that's and let me put you up solo on the screen. That's not quite ammo. That looks like, well, it's ammo, but for intoxication.
If you want to get loaded, no, it's clearly somebody wants to get loaded.
Well, now look at it this way, Mike. You've got a really nice collection back there. My wife would appreciate that. I don't drink. I don't need that. So you should get rid of your collection of fine bourbons.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I don't drink either. In fact, it's a blue screen back here, just like balls. It's not real. It's just something I point to all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm living in my mom's basement. Yeah.
Carrie Ann, we got to get you on here with us. She says, how are we supposed to put a fire out? Not provide water. Yeah, and don't let the volunteer fire department practice before they go to put the fire out.
No, that's Parafire organization right there.
Yeah, it is. We're getting so many great comments in here. I'm violates the right in the First Amendment of our right to peaceably assemble. All right, guys,
But
we
you're
are
radical.
we are
You're radical.
coming up on the top of the hour, and if I want to get us out of here anywhere close to on time, we need to start wrapping this up. Mike, I'm going to go to you first. Tell us about Arms Room Radio. Please tell us about the rundown and anything else you want to plug today, man.
Sure. Arms Room Radio is we're in our 9th year now. It's amazing. You can go to armsroomradio.com. We're on once a week on Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. We also do the rundown the weekdays at 6 p.m. Myself and Craig DeLuz. You can watch there on all the places you watch videos and podcasts. And you know what? A special congratulations out to our good friends Amanda Suffolk and Rick Ector for getting a NRA Board of Directors positions.
Amen.
All right. And gun websites, God bless you, man. Another great comment. I got to get this. No guns on the stream. All the booze, that's fine.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's a direct poke at YouTube there. I'm going to go to you next, Rob. Tell us about Self-Defense Gun Stories. Tell us about your blog and anything else you want to plug, man.
Right, I host the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Unlike this, it only runs 20 minutes once a week. I am a co-host with Paul on the Polite Society podcast. Thank you for that. My blog is at slowfacts.wordpress.com. My writing is often picked up and carried at AmmoLand and now at Ops Lens. Tom, to you.
To me.
Anything? Do you want to promote anything from Firearms Academy of Seattle? Are you going to
All
start
kinds
your
of
own
good stuff.
podcast or blog or?
I don't work for a living. I'm retired. I'm one of a number of uh, firearms instructors at the Firearms Academy of Seattle. We are no longer in Seattle, although we started there. We are in a private outdoor 40-plus acre facility halfway between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. Fairly rural. We have 13 ranges, the last I count, with low light steel 600 yard rifle range, search houses, big, small ranges, all kinds of cool stuff for our rifle, pistol, shotgun classes, tactical classes, hand-to-hand classes. We are currently, actually, as we speak, Dark Angel Medical is there. We have a number of visiting instructors. John Farnham's got a class at the end of May, if I recall. Steve Fisher's coming out. Masada Yuba has been coming out every year for over 30 years. If you want to look at that, you're in the Pacific Northwest or like to travel and see what green looks like, www.firearmsacademy.com has got the full listed website.
Very cool. On my end, this does wrap up my broadcasting week for the Second Amendment Foundation. Please do come join me. And now, going forward, 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Saturday, every day. Monday through Friday, the regular bullet. Saturday will be the weekend edition of the bullet. What we do it here today. We take a look at the biggest stories of the week and we go a little bit deeper into each story. But do come join me Monday through Saturday next week, 6 p.m. Central Time. Very quickly, we have a good friend of ours today. I want to confirm. Somebody told me pre-show, didn't Rick Ector get number 76?
Number 76. Yep, Rick posted it up earlier today.
Okay. Because I just got a comment from gun websites that Rick did not get a spot. So,
Okay, he wasn't elected
Correct.
for a 4-year term. He has a 1-year term.
Right.
Yeah.
At the 76 spot for 1 year.
and I would expect that changes next year, by the way.
Please?
Yes. Rick is a outstanding gentleman. I've gone up to Detroit, as has Mike, to help out with his women's training weekend. And this is, Tom, if you ever get vacation at that same time this happens, Rick takes one weekend and he gives out free training to any woman that wants training. This is not even intro to firearms. This is taking your first shots training. He gets the guns donated. He gets the ammunition donated. A whole bunch, and I mean a whole bunch of trainers from throughout the nation volunteer their time and travel, go up there and help him make sure these women get a safe introduction to handguns. And I want to say he's in the Rob, do you remember what I think his high water mark is, like in the multiple thousands of women each
Oh
weekend.
yeah, now he's got 2 ranges for 2 days. Yeah, so I think he's over 2,000 total.
Oh yeah, he says he's done something. Yeah, it was 1,500 last year, and he estimates it's almost 7,000-8,000 total.
Yeah.
Good on him.
All right.
Yeah.
And
Rick's been elected. There's Rick's notification.
very, very cool. Let me put you solo on screen and put that up one more time, Mike.
There we go.
Very cool.
It's there you go.
All right.
Trying to get the light off it. There you go. I'm happy to announce that I have been elected to the NRA Board of Directors. True story, Rick Ector. And then he got the 76th position.
That's awesome. All right. Folks, we are going to shut it down. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening. Do consider coming and joining us live sometime. That's it for us. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.